Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. My name is Judith and today is October 23rd and it's time to dig up and thin our strawberries so that we can move them over later. My husband and I, Dale, we live and grow food in the heart of the city in historic old downtown. My front garden and my back garden are only 600 square feet all together. That's why I take the opportunity to grow food in my front yard too. I want to move the strawberries over because birds and squirrels have been stealing the fruit. I had envisioned planting strawberries all along the edge like a hedge to hold in the soil, but the birds have just been picking on them too much. So I want to put them under hoops and netting, and for that, I'm going to have to move them over. You see the strawberries on this plant? These are ever-bearing strawberries. That means they start producing fruit in the spring. Here, that's typically early May. And they'll produce strawberries all month and into June. And they'll slow down, but they'll still keep producing throughout the summer and then produce when it gets a little bit cooler in the fall. Now, most of these I'm going to end up sharing with my community for free. There's way too many to plant along here. I want to space them 12 inches apart. And there's too many for that because if I crowd them, they'll produce smaller fruit. Now the strawberries are along here. I'm not going to cover these because I'm going to plant other things here in the front garden and it would block the ability to walk back and forth. But I'm going to dig these up along here because the tunnel's going to stretch all the way. I'm going to leave the ones close to the house until later. Now, before I replant these, I want to lay down cardboard. And on top of that, put the hoops, dig some holes, and then plant the strawberries into their new spot. And that'll be on the next video. Now let's get these strawberries into the back garden and pot them up. And I'll decide which ones I'm going to keep. You want to move your strawberry plants before the ground freezes. But honestly, the last few winters, the ground is never fully frozen like it normally has. Now, the end of October is a good time for me to move these plants. I am using organic potting soil, specifically ProMix Organic Garden Mix. It comes in a compressed package with a handle and is so much easier to store. Now I'm going to put more than one strawberry plant in each pot. Look at one of my strawberry thieves right over there. Well, it's my own fault because I do feed them. I enjoy the wildlife. I'm just not wanting to share my strawberries anymore. See how this one clump had many plants in it. So whoever takes this pot, they can just separate out these plants themselves. Here's an example of individual plants. Now, sometimes if a piece like this has roots on it, you can separate it, but let me take this off and show you. There's no roots that have grown out of this yet, and in my experience, if I pop this up by itself, it's going to die. I don't separate them until there's more roots on the offshoot. If I find one, I'll show it to you. But here's some more individual plants. I'm going to put about 5 in this pot. Now here's some of the ones I'm saving. So here's an example. This has roots already. So I'm comfortable separating that. It'll probably survive. If you want to grow your strawberries in pots, this pot is too tiny. This is only a temporary home when I give them away. I'm also potting up the ones I'm going to keep because if I don't get them in the ground today, I'd rather them be in soil. I suggest no more than 1 plant per 12-inch pot. If you want more than 1 plant per pot, you need to get bigger and bigger pots. but you can always try. And if you fail, it's fine. Gardening, learning to grow things, it should be fun. This one is kind of dry. It was along the edge, and those just dried out too fast. This one's better. These are the last two. And don't bury the crown. I'm going to plant it about right here. You know, at the base of the crown. Don't drown it or it'll rot. I was wrong. There's a whole pile of plants over here. I felt like, really? That's all there was? There's a lot more. Now let's talk about runners. You know the baby plants that come off of the mother plant? Here's an example. Here's a runner. Whoops. Okay. So that's already disconnected. So my experience, if they're like these, look at them right here. If they don't have any roots yet, they're not worth potting up. They'll die. Now, if they're still attached to the mother plant, let me look for an example. Then leave that connection with the mother and pot it up. And once it grows roots, then sever it from the mom. Let me find one. Okay, here's one from one of the plants I'm going to save. Now, here's a runner. This is the mother. There's the baby, and it already has roots. If I snipped it off now and potted it up, it might survive. This one wouldn't. So my plan is pot up the mother, pot up the baby, and leave them together. Here, let me show you. So 2 pots, and put mom in one and put it in another. But leave them connected. I don't know about in the fall, but in the spring or summer, about 6 weeks, and then sever the plant. Sorry about the sun. This garden is so small, it's hard to find the perfect spot to film. Let's see which we can separate. What already has developed their own root system? So this one. And that. You're going to want to leave this intact. But the plants I want to save, well, let me show you in the next clip. Okay, this is an older plant. See how much more thick and dried out the root system looks? This is a little bit younger. Now, what I want to keep are young plants. It's much more green. Now, this is very young. This is a first-year plant. This one too. Strawberries do best year 2 and year 3. By year 4, they're done. They don't last forever, so you want to constantly change out your plants. But I don't want to just put these into the compost. I prefer to share it because next year this plant is going to send out runners. So whoever takes this plant can produce more strawberry plants from it. I just want to keep it for myself because next year it won't make very good fruit and I'll be disappointed. Now it's time for my plants. Ouch. Ooh, that's sharp, that edge cut me. I went and washed it, and used alcohol, and put some medicine on it. I should be having gloves on, but it's so awkward to take them on and off for signing. I need to be careful. Look at that. This is a wild onion bulb. Pure evil. They spread like wildfire. Now, if you want to grow runners, again, take another pot and plant the runner and leave them together for about 6 weeks, then cut them apart. Never tried it in the fall, but in the spring and summer. I pinned them in there and it works that way. But I don't need any runners right now, so later I'll cut those off. Here's another one. Now for that one I used soil from the ground. What fell off of all these strawberries? Because this is just temporary. I'm going to plant them today or tomorrow. But for the ones I'm giving to the community, or if I'm going to grow it in a pot, I would never use garden soil. It would just get too hard. But for that it'll be fine. I just ran out of potting soil and I didn't want to go mix any more up. Okay, we need to get all of these strawberries to the community shelf. I have one in the alley behind the garage. First, though, we need to water all of them. Here's the potting soil. See how it's compressed? I like that. And this is the compost that we're going to use for the strawberries in the front. I'm going to lay down the cardboard and top it with this compost. This is from the alley. You saw where I dumped in the compost? This is what was there for 4 years, mainly bedding from my quail. And the last year, I didn't touch it at all, so now it's ready to be used. Okay, in the next video, we're going to lay down the cardboard and put down the mulch and plant the strawberries. Thank you for visiting Withrow Urban Homestead. See you later. Bye-bye.